Today's video is a sew along using this McCall's pattern M8105, and I actually made option B with the slit, but with the skirt A, which is the shorter skirt above the knee. Suggested fabrics are crepes, cotton blends, knits, and challis. I used a red crepe fabric that I had.
I used Brotherfoot G for a zigzag stitch to finish my raw edges. You could also use your serger, but I did not want to change all my threads out to red. Once you have cut out your pattern pieces, attach your two back skirt pieces to your two back skirt pieces. Once you have sewn the skirt sides together, hem the bottom. Stitch along the long side of the shoulder strap using a 5/8 inch seam allowance, leaving the long two ends open. Trim your excess fabric. Then turn your shoulder straps inside out.
Okay, so for this pattern, the dart is a little different than traditional darts because it's cut out. I like to just mark where the small circles are and then take the pattern piece off, line up the circles, and just draw a line. Makes it really easy. Okay, perfect.
Sew your darts.
This is why I like to use the tailor's ham to press this bust seam, this dart, because you can see I pressed it from the other side and it did not fully press the seam. So this is how to apply the strap. You can see my large circle, right side of the fabric, small circle, small circle. So you match the circles and angle it back this way, and then it'll flip around and look great.
Pin your bodice pieces together and sew. This is why you always check before sewing together. You can see that I pinned one of the bodice pieces with the seams facing the wrong way. You also want to make sure the straps cross in the back. This is what the bodice will look like with the front tie overlay. I tried to shorten and modify the overlay and decided I didn't like it and ended up taking it out. So now I am attaching the lining to the front bodice and including the strap that will go in the front between the layers. Okay, so now I've sewed my bodice lining to my bodice front. And now I'm going to understitch the bodice lining, which means I will start from one side and stitch the lining as close as possible to just stitch the lining, probably about 1/8 of an inch, while not stitching the bodice, and that will just help it to lay flat. You can see I have already pressed it so it's laying flat. You can see that I line the seam up with the edge of this presser foot, and that way I'm sewing as close as possible. And you can see on the back side it looks beautiful and it helps it lie flat. So you can see when you're understitching, if you get to a point where you can't separate the layers and get into stitch, like where the strap is, I can't separate that and get my sewing machine in there, you just stop it and then restart it on the other side. You can see I'm checking the location of the straps and getting ready to sew them. Remember that I took out the overlay. Now sew the strap between the bodice and the lining. I've increased my stitch length to 5, so to baste together the 2 front skirt pieces. Pressing the hem of the skirt gives it a nice tailored appearance. Pin and stitch the bodice to the skirt. On the left side of the zipper, the right side to the right side of the bodice. On the left side. And I always like to check it. It's gonna lay like this, and this I already trimmed the seam line, but will lay. Okay, that's how it'll sit. So let's go ahead and sew here. Change to your invisible zipper foot. Adjust your needle location for your zipper foot and then start to sew as close as possible to the invisible zipper without getting any of the zipper teeth in your stitch. I always like to check the invisible zipper a few times and make sure that it zips up and down without any stitches getting caught. Here I'm lining up the zipper on the other side of the fabric, the right side, and pinning it before I baste it. I would actually recommend having the zipper zipped and lining the top piece up of the zipper to the top piece of the fabric and then pinning it just to ensure that the zipper is correctly aligned. I actually like to trim the ends of my zipper so that they will lie flush under the layers between the bodice and the lining. This is one of the worst parts about sewing. So the zipper lined up perfectly on the top and bottom, but you can see where the skirt pieces attached to left and right of the zipper, that they're not symmetric. So I actually had to go back and adjust those pieces and then redo where the zipper was. So I am sewing the right side of the zipper, and you can see how I am lining up the invisible zipper with the teeth of the zipper and adjusting my needle so that it is as close to the zipper as possible without actually sewing into the zipper teeth. Don't forget to backstitch when you start sewing the zipper and at the end of the zipper when you get to the bottom. Again, I like to check the zipper a few times before trying it on and make sure it works well. You can see I went back and fixed those waist seams so that they lined up perfectly and that the zipper still worked well. Now that I sewed both sides of the invisible zipper, I'm going back and sewing the bottom of the invisible zipper down. Just so that the seam lines from the bottom of the skirt match up with where the zipper begins. Hand sew the bodice to the lining. You can see that the darts in the bodice turned out a little large, and so I will have to go back and actually adjust this.